Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Jay Lang, and it's a great day to be here at the center. I remember growing up, there was a phrase that people would say about where they were going to attend something. They'd say, well, I'll be there if God is willing and the creek don't rise. Well, God is willing this morning, and the creek is rising, and we're still here, so that's great. A special welcome to you if this is your first time. There'll be acknowledgement of you later in the service, but in the meantime, sit back and enjoy this wonderful service we have today. We do like to begin our service affirming our vision and mission statement. So if you'll look towards the screen, our vision statement, there it is. Repeat the phrase, we are an inclusive community for spiritual growth and community action. And then our mission statement, we repeat together, we are co-creating a world that works for everyone by living intentionally, loving unconditionally, and seeing God in all people and all faiths. So just breathing that in and knowing that as we open up to a new year, it's great to be here in a new year, and you have your own personal affirmations, your own personal intentions as you turn towards the coming year. So it is with our vision and mission that we renew today and know that it is coming forth in all that we do. And so what's great about that is this really goes in this value-based life that the other centers are calling it, are still going to be the structure of the theme that we're doing this year. So it's fun to be connected with these other centers and get an overall view of what they're doing. And if you're ever traveling, you can always visit other centers. And I know people have visited here from other centers are going, oh, good, you're still keeping up with the theme, so I can keep up with it. And this month, the theme for all the centers is spiritual living. And in particular, we're covering in the next 4 weeks the basics of Science of Mind. We do this every year because it's really important to just kind of get back to the fundamentals. And these are described in Ernest Holmes, our founder, in the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind book. And the first one is the thing itself. The second one is the way it works, which we'll cover next week. Third week is what it does. And the fourth week is how to use it. And we keep talking about this word it. What's interesting about this is Ernest Holmes knew that he was not coming up with anything new. This was ancient wisdom. But what he also knew is that he wanted to, when he talked about God or Spirit, Yahweh, Allah, divine presence, creative intelligence, he didn't know the pronoun to use because he or she implies that God has gender, which it doesn't, or implies that it is somewhere, it's out there, some form or something, which we don't believe it does. We believe that Spirit is everywhere there is. And that is all there is. And it's more of a presence rather than a place. So he sometimes would use the pronoun he, and sometimes he would use it. But more often it, because it didn't specify a gender. But it doesn't keep us from being confused. And I tell you, whenever someone uses he or she or it, I just translate it in the way that I'm comfortable with it. So don't let that, when you're reading something, let that hang you up on that or stop you from opening up to the truth that's in it. Whenever I see the word it, because it seems impersonal, I just add the word spirit in it. So spirit. So I know that's God. But he or she, we still, we have our own gender issues here. I like the story that was told of a reinterpretation of the Garden of Eden, where in this story, it was Eve that was created first. And she was alone. Yeah, exactly. She was alone in the Garden of Eden, and she was talking to God, I love all these animals, I have all I can eat, plenty of apples, by the way. But I would like another person here. Can you do anything about that? And God said, well, I can create this thing called man, but I'm telling you, you got to know everything there is before you say yes or no on this. You see this man he's great. He'll listen to everything you say. He won't always understand everything, but he'll listen to you. He'll be a great friend. He's strong and powerful. He's very analytical too. He's great at fixing things, even things don't need fixing. But he's also sometimes thinks he can do it all and doesn't ask for help. And he likes competition maybe too much. He always likes to win. He even will be fond of watching other people play games and have his favorite teams and spend a lot of time doing that. Why would he do that? Well, that's a question you're going to ask yourself in the future. But, he will be a good friend and companion. She goes, I'd like that. Could you create man? And God says, sure, but I need to let you know something else about this. He's going to kind of have a fragile ego, and he's going to want to have been first. So you're going to have to agree to make him believe he was the first one. We'll kind of keep that a secret between you and me. Woman to woman. Now, the other side of that, there's another interpretation of that story that says it was man that was first, whether he was or not, and man said, I'm all alone here. Is there any way I could, have a companion? God goes, sure, but you need to know that when I create woman, it's going to cost you. Cost me? What do you mean? How much would it cost me? Well, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg and an ear. And he goes, oh, that's a lot. What could I get for a rib? So this whole he, she thing, we go back and forth on it, right? But the truth is, what we know about it, how we define it as God, as a greater being within us, maybe there's a new language we need to invent. And in fact, Muslims often say that there's no word that describes God because any word we use limits it. And that's how I feel sometimes, but we've got to have something as a word to describe it. So Ernest Holmes very clearly said he did not invent anything new. He took ancient wisdom, but he synthesized this. And it's of great value to study his work because what he's doing, he had his own mystical revelations, his own experience of spirit, but he also looked back to the ancient religions and found the truths that were in them. So I kind of want to walk through this idea about spirit. Now, today in particular, we're talking about showing up. And I've followed the 4 chapters we have, the Science of Mind book, as I mentioned before, and I'm looking at a new way of looking at it, because as a person who came to our first service said, every year you talk about it, but you found a new way to talk about it this year, so that's good. So this year, we're talking about the 4 philosophies that Ariane Angelis came up with. And she's a spiritual teacher, but she's also an anthropologist. Very few spiritual teachers are also anthropologists. And she looked at indigenous cultures and she found they had this common theme of this philosophy of life, and that's to show up, pay attention, don't be attached to the outcome, and to tell the truth. So I'm using these ideas to show up, pay attention, don't be attached to the outcome, and tell the truth. So this week is showing up. And when we show up, that's the beginning of a deeper relationship with Spirit. We have to be present. If you think about it in terms of school, you have to be in class. Now, when I was in middle school and high school, I sometimes got in trouble because I didn't go to class, right? It made you. But when I got to college, I didn't have to go to class. I go, well, that's great. But then my grades suffered because I didn't show up, right? So in life, you're a choice, but to show up, to be present is the key, not to be caught into the past or the future, but to be in the present and show up. So in this place where we show up, we recognize that the thing itself, Spirit, Yahweh, an opening of the divine intelligence comes through us as we show up. So what Ernest Holmes did is he took these different philosophies that we look at now and synthesize and found the common truth among them. So I'm going to kind of go through them real quickly here. So Buddhism believes that in the center, what we seek is nothing. We seek to find not any attachments, which is the source of our suffering. So we come to find the blank slate and be in this nothingness. And it's in this nothingness that we can find our deeper truths, because we know that. In Hinduism, which actually came long before Buddhism, they believe that within this nothingness is everything, is oneness. So both Buddhism and Hinduism it's important for the stillness and meditation practice to find this nothingness. Hinduism believes that in this nothingness is actually everything, is oneness. So they seek this oneness rather than the nothingness, but both are of value. Spiritualism, which was a popular movement more than a religion at the time, Ernest Holmes in the early 20th century was very popular. They believed we were all divine, that in the center there is everything, and each of us is divine. And that has now begun you would call it New Age now. This idea that we all have divinity within us, which is an important truth. Ram Dass, who was a spiritual teacher of the New Age, talked about when he was beginning his teachings, he had a brother who had mental health challenges and was institutionalized because of it. And when he would visit his brother would always, and his name was Alfred, not Ram Dass, the spiritual name, but to his brother, he was always Alfred. And he goes, Alfred, I don't understand. When I say I'm God, they put me in this place. When you say you're God, they make you a spiritual teacher. And Ram Dass goes, oh, you don't understand. You say you're God, but you think you're the only one. I say I'm God, but I know everybody else is God too. And so this is that spiritualist perspective that we are all divine. And then we get to the main religions of the Abrahamic tradition, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. And they generally, more conservative, this is not across the board, but generally they believe God is above, that God is separate from us, God is a supreme being above us, and that when we turn to prayer and meditation, we can meet God in the middle. And particular Christians use the symbol of the cross, not only to talk about crucifixion, but we know that Jesus was not crucified on a cross, but this symbol of he was crucified on a tree. That's a whole other story, but the reason why this cross has become so universal in Christian symbology is because this is the place, this is the meeting ground where people meet God, because God comes down and people rise up in prayer and meditation upon request to have this relationship with Spirit. So when asked, I was asked directly, well, who's correct? Is it the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Christians, the Muslims, the Jews? Who's correct? And he said, he was asked, are they right? And he would go, yes, they're all right. And his "and" was about the universal truth that's in all of them. And I want to walk through this because this helps us define what God is according to Ernest Holmes and what we continue to believe at the center. So he took this idea of the Buddhism and said, the Buddhists, let us learn to be still. Let us find the peace. Let us find that nothingness that's within us. Let's let go of our attachments. Let's go of the past and let go of our worries about the future, and let's just be present, to show up and be present. He talked about, he brought in the idea of Hinduism where he goes, let us learn to be still and find the inner light, the divinity that is within us. He's famous for the quote, there is one life, that life is God, that life is perfect, that life is my life now. This is that oneness that he knew, that he first discovered from Hinduism, but he experienced it in his own mystical path. He was often quoted philosopher who said, God is a circle whose center is everywhere and circumference nowhere. Circle whose center is everywhere and circumference nowhere. And he also said that God is not a person, but a presence personified in us. So that helps define us. And he also, like the Bible verse, be still and know that I am God, the greater I am, that I am God, that you are God, that we are God together. He also studied Christianity and Judaism, not so much Muslim at the time because simply translations were not available in his day of the Quran. It wasn't readily available. But he would have if it had been, I'm sure, because he was just fascinated by religions. But he believed that from this oneness that we know in the nothingness, from this oneness, we can know the divine thought comes through us as us. So it's not that God is up there, but we can know our divinity and we download it, we bring it into form and the way it is. And we know the road to freedom lies through the intelligent use of the natural laws of the universe. So this meeting ground of what we know in the divinity, what we can know in our mind, what we can know in consciousness, and open up to a greater thing and comes into form. So the radiance of our self-unfoldment grows as we realize the great presence in which we live and move and have our being. It is being manifested as we speak, as we know. We know there is a power of God which is responding to me, responding to each of us, and bringing into my experience everything that is necessary to my unfoldment, to my happiness, to my peace, to my health, and my success. And he also knew from this place of oneness, realizing that I am one with people, he can know this truth for anybody. And we can know the truth for anybody by knowing this oneness. So we can affirm there's a silent power flowing through me and through each person whom I pray for, whom I think good thoughts for, who I affirm, and it blesses and heals and prosper and make happy and glad their pathway. So he doesn't do it as an arrogance, but as a knowing with him the greater truth of what spirit is within us. He developed this science of mind teaching symbol, as we call it, to represent this idea that we are downloading the perfection that we know within our body, this greater self. And that he also knew that although we manifest this happiness, this joy, it doesn't stay within us, that expresses out that we are both an inlet and an outlet of God. And that each individual is a unique expression in the universe, that no two people are alike, and yet all people are rooted in that which is identical. Yet all people are rooted in that which is identical. That we actually need spiritual experience. We shall never know peace until we embody it. We shall never know truth until we become the truth. And we can know God, we cannot know God until we know it within our own being. So what I love about this teaching is it's so easily applied out in the world. That when we find this stillness and this greater truth. So there's a elementary and middle school that they found their tradition of when kids get in trouble that they stay after school for detention was not working. So they devised a room for meditation and yoga. And so kids could come that were required to go, as well as kids that could come who just wanted to come. And they were taught how to find that peace within them. The number of detentions went down, but the number of kids attending this after-school program went up. They truly were finding something different. And what the value of this was is a lot of these kids came from homes that they were not peaceful. Even the best of homes has moments of chaos, right? So they were able to find this peace, and as I mentioned, detentions went down. When the program was in place, there were no expulsions. There were kids who would correct their behaviors, who would find the greater truth, and just a peace that they didn't know in their regular life. And this program extended itself where they were doing community service. And became so much a part of them that one parent replied that she came home in a stressful mood from work, and her son reminded her maybe she needed a moment to go breathe for a moment. So we know that this system works, that as it is in heaven, and heaven is not something distant, but it's something that we can recognize in our own beingness, and then we know it to be on earth and to form. And we let Spirit grow within us, we allow it to unfold, and it becomes this manifestation that's out in the world, this truth of this being that we have. Lately, I've been thinking about how this manifestation we have a Spirit downloaded through us as us, and thinking about dance as a metaphor for life. Maybe it's the rain and Debbie Reynolds passing and thinking about singing in the rain. But I also think it makes sense that to use this metaphor idea that life itself is this dance. Now we can think about the structure and the form of this dance, what kind of dance it is and how it's like the structure and form of our lives. If I think about, that's a great picture of Debbie Reynolds there. But Dancing with the Stars. It's a show my wife watches, and I'd watch it with her, and I started getting into it. I like the show because I like to see how the dancers improve over time. But they're required to learn dance in a certain way. And we in our lives have certain things that are our structure of our lives, our job, our task, the things we do in life, the relationships, the home we live, the community we are a part of. It's the structure. That's the dance. And sometimes that dance can feel confining, and sometimes it feels liberating. And if you watch this show, sometimes the contestants are criticized about being too concerned with the form and not just allowing themselves to enjoy the dance or be with the dance or smile. And we can be too caught up in the form of life and forget there's a greater expression going on there. And I know that we are the dancer, but there is something being expressed in that love, that light that we are, that is the dance itself, that you can't see it. But we recognize who we are, first of all, in that expression. That dance is Spirit itself. The light, the energy, the power, the love of that. And if we're too caught up in the form of life, we miss that. And the other thing is sometimes we're caught up in what we think is a mistake, a misstep in our life, in the dance of life. We think we have done something wrong or people are watching, that if we're too caught up in that, we're not dancing either. And we need to just allow ourselves to dance, not compare ourselves with somebody that has this incredible life or something, or we think, because we don't really know what's going on with people. We need to just do our dance that we're called to, a unique expression that we are. Kids dance. They don't think about anything other than just dancing. So we allow ourselves, no matter our ability, our age, or our condition, we just allow ourselves to dance. To be free and dance this truth of who we are. I love what Ernest Holmes says, when we trust the universe, we shall be happy, prosperous, and well. No matter what emotional storm or situation we may be, there is always something hidden in the inner being that is perfect, whole, and complete. We may stumble, but there is always that internal voice forever whispering within our ear, that thing which causes the internal quest, that thing that forever sings and sings within us and dances and dances. It is Spirit itself that is calling us to dance. So as you hear this song from Diego, it is Spirit. Imagine the I that he's singing from is Spirit itself calling you to dance.
I hope you never lose your sense of wonder. You get your fill to eat, but always keep the hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leave you empty-handed. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more will open. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. when you get the choice to sit it out or dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance.
It is Spirit itself that is expressing through us, that it is that perfection, that completeness, that it is just the way it is. We show up and we know the greater truth is coming through us, and we just allow ourselves to dance. We don't let anything stand in our way. We release anything in the past or any worries of the present or the future, and we just let ourselves be. We know that we are connected, we are whole, complete, and perfect, and we dance fully and completely. We know this to be the truth, and we simply allow it to be, and so it is.
You never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle, fear the path of least resistance. Living might mean making choices that worth taking. Loving might be a mistake, but it's worth making. Don't let some hell-bent heart leave you bitter. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. Give the heaven above more than a passing glance. When you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. Quite enough joy for all the world, and there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. Oh, Spirit, yes, Spirit is in this very room. This very room, there's quite enough love for all the